Let's go over to Anderson.
Stay in your lanes, all right? Just. Hey, welcome back. Sorry, we were in the midst of discussion. I'll include you in on the discussions.
I remember when I was in the field and Bloomberg declared, and we were very, very concerned about what state he was going to enter in. And to me, Bloomberg made a really crucial mistake by not getting in on South Carolina because he was on the debate stage in South Carolina. He had many endorsements, including from mayors in South Carolina. And advertising really works in South Carolina. If he'd put his ad dollars to work in South Carolina, I believe he'd have double digits tonight and he'd be suppressing Biden's margin of victory. But the fact that he waited till Super Tuesday is going to give Joe a real burst of momentum, and I think it's going to be potentially a difference maker.
Andrew Yang, if you were Mike Bloomberg and your reason for getting into the race not only was you really wanted to be president and have for a long time, is you didn't think Joe Biden's up to it and you do not want, above all else, Donald Trump to become the president, what do?
Well, you take a long, hard look at your path ahead. If Mike ends up underperforming in the Super Tuesday states, he may be below the 15% threshold to get delegates in many of those states. He hasn't bought ads past Tuesday. And I think Mike's a very, very rational actor, where he's not going to be the spoiler. If he senses that he's the spoiler, I think he makes a very quick decision about making a change. And one of the things I said the other night was that Mike obviously can bankroll any candidate he chooses. He chose himself. But if he drops out, then I think he would put his money behind the strongest moderate, which at this point is clearly Joe Biden.
Go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Alexandra. Joe Biden is the new comeback kid. And last week I said that some other candidates should pull an Andrew Yang. And what I meant by that is make a rational, principled decision about whether they should be in the race based on three things. Number one, can you win? Number two, are you helping your cause by staying? And number three, are you helping defeat Donald Trump by staying? And I concluded that the answers to those questions were no, and I dropped out. Now, every candidate in the race has run a tremendous campaign. They can walk out with their heads held high. And certainly many of them are, or all of them are, I'd consider a friend, so it's hard to say you should make this decision. But I will say to them all, if you get out, it's not terrible not having a camera in your face 24/7. Your families will be happy to see you. And you've missed a lot of good TV and movies.
I love the way you look in the camera and say it's not the worst thing to not have a camera.
Andrew, what do you think?
I've spoken before and after Joe maybe dozens of times, and that was the best I've ever seen him. You know, I think the intro when it says that you know Joe and Joe knows you, I think the essence of that was you had the sense that Joe cares about you in America, which he does very deeply. I feel like if Bernie represents anger and revolution, Bloomberg represents wealth and managerial competence, at least, you know, to some measure. I feel like Biden is carrying empathy and patriotism. And if he's able to demonstrate that in a way that's not talking about how he's going to win, but actually just showing those qualities, I think this has a chance to be a transformative moment.
The question really is, do other candidates see him drop out and think maybe I should have that conversation with myself? Because, you know, that's the only potential impact here, is to get the other candidates to think about it. Andrew Yang was just talking about it during the panel conversation earlier. But you know what? Am I really making an impact on the race?
I said if I didn't see a path to winning, that I'd suspend my campaign. And honestly, I can't see a path where I can win the presidency. So am I going to continue to work on every single one of these issues?
Tom Steyer dropping out of the race just moments ago. Want to talk about it with the group here. Andrew Yang, I mean, it's a decision you made as well. It's interesting you talked about kind of looking at this rationally, trying not to get, you know, obviously there's a lot of emotion with the race. Looking irrationally, there wasn't a path ahead for you, you saw, and that seems to be the decision he made as well.
Yeah, it's not surprising to me that Tom dropped out. I think that Tom is a rational, principled actor. He was not going to do something that he thought was bad for the country. He invested a lot of energy in South Carolina, so we wanted to see it through. The question now in my mind is whether several other candidates follow suit in the coming days. The big question marks to me are Pete and even Bloomberg. And so for Bloomberg, he's likely to see Super Tuesday through. But if you make this decision before Super Tuesday, it's actually much more impactful than if you make it after. So those are the conversations that I think some other candidates should be having.
Yeah. South Carolina primary is over. This is the moment to have that discussion.
I mean, Tom didn't decide just now to get out. Like, what he was having conversations with his team saying, hey, if we don't hit a certain result in South Carolina that gives us some kind of fuel moving forward, then we'll get out. And so Tom has been thinking about this. The other candidates are thinking the same things. They're looking around the map and they're saying, if we get this result in these states, then let's continue. And if we don't, we fall short, then we should consider dropping out. I will say that the race looking ahead is much better for Biden because it becomes much more familiarity, earned media, and advertising campaign than it is the retail campaign that has gone on thus far. And Joe's very strong, obviously, in familiarity and earned media. And I think he's going to raise a truck ton of money. So I think he may be firing on all cylinders very shortly.
None of them can afford to get on television except Bernie Sanders,
Mike,
right?
One thing, though, is that if there was someone having like Tulsi Gabbard could be having an event right now, just no one's going to cover it. Like, as a candidate, you actually know that, like, if someone had an event right now, there's a good chance they just don't get it covered. So if you were a campaign and you knew you were going to get coverage, of course you'd give us news. But they're just not going to get covered.
Really?
Yeah. She was down.
Why is Tulsi still in, you think?
I think she's running for different reasons than many other candidates. I mean, she already said she's not running for Congress anymore. She's got a different agenda.
I feel that the conversation that we all want to know about is the one that's going on inside the Bloomberg campaign. Because money is not the issue. So you can put that to a side. It's different from every campaign you've been in, Terry.
Yep.
Governor. It's different because it's, okay, we don't have to think about the money we're going to raise. It's about something else. It's about how do we help a Democrat get elected president? How do we not embarrass the candidate?
I want to tell
a whole different
I want
thing.
to tell a Bloomberg story that I think will be helpful. I had coffee with a marketing staffer from my campaign, and I was concerned, what are you going to do next? And he said, don't worry about it. I'm working at the Bloomberg campaign, and they're paying me 2.5 times what I got paid here. And they have this massive operation that is leaps and bounds ahead of anything the DNC is employing in terms of data and resources. They have their own digital war room. So, Gloria, when you ask how is Bloomberg going to make this decision, they've got this incredible data projection.
Algorithm.
Down to the district, down to the delegate. And they're mapping it and simulating it. And Bloomberg's saying, okay, if we get this in this place, as soon as he has a clear picture from the data that he's not going to be contributing, he'll be out.
Put the money in our hands. 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 Can we afford it? Yes. Will it cause inflation? No. Is it awesome? Yes. Is anyone trying to make it happen? Yeah, that guy.